How's everybody doing today? Ah, good, you're listening. So, what is listening? As you see here is a picture of a guy. He's touching his ear. Is he attentively listening to you? Is he really being sincere? That is a question that most people could generally answer when they're making, well, by simply looking, because most communication is nonverbal, and I will go over a patient listener is someone who, and more than ears, tips on listening, and different skills and types of listening abilities for different genders. Because each gender has their own ability to listen. So there's reasons for bad listening. One of the main reasons is not focusing on the message. A lot of people actually communicate a message and say something and focus on only the first part of the message without actually listening to the rest of the message. Or they have a question they want to respond very quickly with, so all they do is focus on the question without actually listening to the rest of the message as well, which actually becomes another bad listening skill, which leads to the next part, which is actually passive listeners. Passive listeners are the people who actually just sit there and actually give fake attention. They're actually just sitting there nodding their head, but they're not really there, but they're physically there. They're not giving you the attention, they're not being sincere, and they're the ones you really need to watch for. Okay. Another reason for bad listening skills is actually bad locations. Say if you're in a conference room, the conference room is a perfect location for actually communicating because you can actually communicate your message and the other person can listen quite well. If you're in a location where there's a lot of distractions, say if you're in a bowling alley or the, so if you're in a bad location, any type of bad location, there's a lot of noise, there's people walking by, you'll focus on them instead of actually listening to the person that's actually right in front of you. If you actually try to focus and pay attention on them, instead of all these side distractions, you can actually get the content of the message and actually be able to focus. And another reason for bad listening is that you'll have people who actually give you what I call a language dump or a lingo dump, which is unfamiliar language. When somebody's talking about your skill set or a technical specialty field, and you don't know exactly what they're saying, then you get really turned off because you don't know what they're really trying to communicate to you in the first place. And these are all really reasons for bad listening. So let's go over some subjects about the patient listener. The patient listener is actually someone who actually sit there and listen to you without abruptly responding really quickly. The mental breather is actually when somebody says something and then somebody who's actually listening will actually not say anything. Will just take a couple seconds, let the silence be there, let it be awkward, and then respond. Because the quick responses can actually, if you do any quick responses, then you can actually say the wrong thing, and then you'll actually be coming off you're not really listening or being sincere. So the benefits of actually being a patient listener is that you can come off being considerate, a considerate person, a considerate listener. And everybody likes that because not only develop a relationship, your rapport with your client, but you also develop rapport with your team members if you're working with a team. Another part is you always learn that, and you can learn that replies are not always, you learn that replies are not always good. It's supposed to be, learn replies are not always, fast replies are not always good. So the next type of listening skills is more than ears. So the more than ears means is all your nonverbal cues when you're sitting there and listening to somebody else talking. So if somebody is actually sitting there talking to you and you're sitting there listening, the good eye contact lets them know that you're actually trying to pay attention, that we're actually listening. And sometimes they'll nod their heads and they'll say, oh, I understand what you're saying. Body language is another part of the more than ears, which is another part of your nonverbal communication. Good posture, somebody sitting on a seat upright, if they're actually on the edge of the seat as well. The gestures are using, like nodding. Facial expressions are always good too, because like they're smiling. So those are all key elements for good listening skills as well. So there's not just simply listening with your ears. It's more also nonverbal cues as well. And these benefits actually go hand in hand with just about anything. As working with a team, because then you also get to working with your team skills, let you build that rapport, and actually let you establish that relationship with your client. That will lead to success with your business, because then you're actually listening to whatever the person's trying to say, and you'll actually get the order correct this time around, hopefully. Tips to improving listening. So it's great for you actually to sit there and listen to someone. And if you try to really find out what they're really trying to say, and you don't know what they're really talking about, and you come up with a question, you just write your question down and just try to listen as much as possible. Because if you don't write your thought down, and you try to just hold in your mind and you try to just listen constantly, you're not really giving them the rest of the context of the message that's full attention it needs. Okay, and then another way to actually improve your listening skills is paraphrasing. People love when you say something like it's a nice day out, and they say, oh yeah, I think it's a nice day out as well. Because it feels like you're actually listening to them and actually agreeing with it. And people like to hear that you're responding back with their own words. So it makes them feel like they're actually contributing to a conversation. And it's not all just one way. Another way to improve your listening skills is remove all distractions. That is a big one. Cell phones are a big distraction in the workplace still. Even just in small communication skills between person to person, or it's actually in a conference. Some people will take a laptop or bring the work with them into a conference and remove them from the set and losing most of the message or the context of the message. Or if they're talking on the phone to somebody who's like a potential sales client, the client's going to feel that they're not being sincere, not listening, and they're going to potentially lose another client for the company. So another way to improve your listening is don't get comfortable. If you get comfortable and you're sitting in one spot all the time, then you're just going to get really relaxed and take it easy, and your mind's just going to start to roam. When this happens, it's better just kind of sit more posture, sit more on the edge of your seat, and you'll actually be more inclined to come back into action to the listening. So listening to genders, because there's different types of genders, or there's two genders, males and females, obviously. So when listening to men are very likely to lecture. They like to talk, they like to give their points of views, they'll tell jokes, they'll give their opinions, and they'll actually challenge facts or authorities, because when they sit there and talk, they'll talk about, well, he said this and his facts are wrong, instead of actually listening. So when you want to listen to men, you're going to want to keep these concepts in mind when you're listening to men. So when you're listening to women actually like to listen to listen to lectures. They're more patient, they're more versatile, they'll wait for pauses to speak, as opposed to the guys who actually sometimes interrupt. And unlike the ladies who are more likely to actually wait for the pauses to actually ask questions. And they're not actually afraid to ask questions, as opposed to the guys who actually simply give opinions and just try to state facts or challenge. So try to remember these key concepts when you're listening to some important subject or potential client, or trying to establish a really good rapport. You can be a patient listener, and there's also the benefit of that is simply not being hasty on your responses. If you respond too quickly, you may come off insincere. More than ears is all your nonverbal cues of saying that, yes, I'm paying attention, I'm looking at you, I'm still listening. And using some of your tips on improving listening skills can actually help you quite well once you realize those distractions. And overall, in the end, your benefits will actually lead from great teamwork, developing client rapport, and lead to your business success with future sales and